Hey guys, what is going on? And we've got a video today about Galaxy of Heroes, and they just dropped all the news on us today. Um, and so there's gonna be tons of content that's coming out on this channel soon. There's a lot of stuff to go in here, and there's a lot of kind of side paths that we could go down, and should we go down them and stuff like that. So if you guys aren't subscribed to the channel yet, please hit the subscribe button. So that way you guys can follow along, and hopefully we can provide you guys with some good advice, because that's at the end of the day, that's all I really want to do. Today though is going to be basically just a focus on what was released to us. We'll go into some analyzation of, what does your guild need to do, do you need to change anything later on, like I said, in different videos, but we're going to briefly go over the road ahead, guys, because there's a lot in here. The first thing that they kind of talk about is the Leviathan, and we obviously knew that it was coming out because the Rex that were out there. We didn't know the date, and that we have actually found that date out right here. It's going to be on the 19th. At least they're saying it's expected to release then. So if you haven't finished up the Rex, you've still got about 2 weeks left. And if you are trying to get it, you should definitely try and get it, because it's looking really good. Basically they said, hey, when designing this, Profundity and Executor are the best of the best. How do you create one that's better than that? And basically they're just saying, hey, it's going to beat them. And it doesn't even sound like it's going to be one of those things where our current set of those ships, those iterations of those ships, are going to be able to counter it. And I'm not going to read through the kit, because again, that deserves its own separate video. When I read through the kit though, I thought to myself, yeah, this is going to be really, really hard to counter. The only thing that kind of kept coming back to me is malevolence. There's still a lot of anti-malevolence here. But that being said, there's a lot of max health stuff here too that I think maybe you can take advantage of. At best though, I think we're looking at 2 shots, right? Like I think 2 shots are back on the table. It looks pretty insane. Again, not going to go over the kit, but just know that it is coming out on this month, July 19th, and that if you're wanting to get 7 stars, you're gonna want to have about 25,000 crystals. It's pretty expensive. But yeah, it looks worth it. So I want to reiterate that part. Okay. Leia Organa, right? We knew that a Galactic Legend was probably coming sometime soon. And most people had it pegged that Leia Organa was going to be it. I know I thought that because of the Jabba event, right? There was the end scene where we get to see Leia kind of as a solo character. In the ending, I think it's during the alt phase, and I just like it really just sparked Malik vibes out of the Darth Revan event. At the very end, I was like, okay, like this feels like the next character that's coming to us. Definitely got that kind of vibe. So anyways, what is interesting is they kind of had the lead designer come out and say, and one of the things is, they're trying to say, when they're designing it, right, they wanted a character to be leading a tactical assault against an enemy. So I think there's gonna be some call to attacks, and we'll kind of go into that as well. But one of the other things that was really interesting to me is I kind of viewed her more as maybe like a support or an attacker. Yeah, so it looks like she's naturally drawing the attention of the enemy. Now granted, that could just be that's what happened. It could be the fact that they're just referring to what she was in the show, but typically when I'm thinking of this, that means like some sort of taunt effect. So maybe she's not a tank, but maybe she's something like Mace Windu's taunt, where they're gaining that, or like Savage, for instance. Even though those characters can be they're kind of like pseudo tanks. I think there's a fine line now where even Gas, right? Like he's not a tank, but he kind of is also. And so I think there's going to be the very interesting thing about what is she, because currently we have almost all attackers. We've obviously got a character like JML, who is a tank, who's benefiting He's the only GL that's benefiting from the Relic 9 increase, and maybe potentially there's a reason for us to increase Leia in as a Relic 9. Just thought that was very interesting that they put that out there. But the first character requirements are out, and we're obviously going to use Captain Rex, Princess Nisa, and then Wicket, Lando Calrissian, and then Admiral Akbar. So these two right here are actually going to feed into what is going to be probably the next thing that we talk about. And so I'm not necessarily upset here. Any added relics and stuff like that, I think to Ewoks at this point is probably going to be a beneficial thing. It's going to be a good like cross pollination between, getting Leia Organa, and then what we'll talk about next is the raid. And then Captain Rex, he just looks really good, so I'm not really upset, and I'm a huge Captain Rex fan, so I'll take that one. Lando Calrissian's already Relic 5 from, I believe, the JML event, so no issues with that one either. And then Admiral Akbar, I had him at Relic 3 actually before this, just as kind of way back in the day. This was like, my negotiator counter. So actually all of those I'm pretty okay with. The Ewoks are probably the one that hurt the most today, but in the future I'm hoping that we get some use out of it. So anyways, they talk a little bit about like what her basic ability is going to be, and they said something about, hey, if they fail to accomplish their goal, they are going to be punished. This is a very interesting mechanic, and I'm kind of excited to see how it works. But basically, on her turn, which again would be the, they failed to accomplish their goal of, taking her out kind of thing. On her turn, she's going to deal bonus true damage to the target enemy equal to 10% of the damage other rebel allies received since her last turn, and deal additional effects based on the target enemy's rolls. So very interesting thing right there. It's almost like a there's a lot of things that are happening right now that are buffing certain things. If you're a tank, like Zori and Finn, Resistance Hero Finn, they have abilities that like do certain things for characters that are, tanks versus attackers versus support. And so very interesting to see what that is, because it sounds like it's going to be the opposite on the enemy team. Okay, and then we got the GL Leia event and Return of the Jedi raid. So this is going to be the interesting part. Now, this is all just like basically a really long way of saying that with Galactic Legend Leia, we're going to get a new raid. I think this is faster than people kind of anticipated. Everyone kind of just guessed it was going to be around a year. So right now we're looking at like a 6 to 8 month window, depending on how far off, and we'll go into their timeline later. But basically it's going to cover their time on Endor when they're on the speeder bikes, which is really, really cool. They're going to be using the same kind of technology that they did with Dash Rendar and even Jedi Knight Cal's event, where you've kind of got that side profile view. Now I don't know if it's going to be that view, but they're using kind of the same technology that they're going to be doing. So very interesting. The other thing that's very interesting is that we aren't going to be doing traditional damage. They kind of say that here. They're going to be scoring points. Now immediately when I read this, I thought I originally thought like maybe we're still just gonna be scoring damage based off of like what we do, like our moves that we're using. But then actually someone in my Discord said something about we could see somewhat of a return of the rock paper scissors that we saw in Rey and SLKR's events, where you kind of are scoring points literally to win certain fights. Now they are saying that we have something to the tune of I think eight abilities, right? So there's one basic that's shared by all characters, and then 7 abilities that the characters will get 1 or 2 based off of their current abilities. So very interesting. The big red flag in this whole thing is that with us not doing traditional damage and stuff like that, the Crate Dragon Raid is one of those things where there are certain teams that get way better when you remod and do certain turn orders and all that good stuff. Absolutely not trying to argue that at all. But then there's also things that like you can just run a team as you kind of normally mod them and you could do well enough. This is sort of the red flag for me. Basically, they're talking about how unique abilities will work through this raid, as in increasing Jedi Knight Luke's potency will increase the amount that their ability stats are going to be able to apply, right? So if you are a PvP guy, you know that you're not using potency sets on Luke, but you might need to use them if you're using them on the raid. That's the only bad part that I'm seeing about this right now, or the biggest red flag, I should say, of this is that right there. I really don't like that, because that does mean you're going to be mod swapping or we're going to be running a less than ideal set. The other thing about this is that they've kind of talked about this being a 3-man kind of raid. So they give a list of characters that are currently allowed to, that they're planning on allowing to use in this raid. Keep in mind, these things can change, right? I just want to be, outright honest, and they were pretty outright honest. This is their current plan. That doesn't mean that they can't change it. So, just so you guys know, like that is kind of the overall kind of theme of what the raid is. Looking forward to it. I'm excited because it's something new. It's something that's different. It's, it's a new aspect of things. I am a little hesitant though about the mod situation. So when can we expect to see this new raid? The team is looking at fall/end of this year. That's kind of a big timeline. If I were to guess though, like what that means, fall is basically all the way up to November. End of the year is December. So I'm guessing they're thinking kind of towards that timeline, right? It could be in September, but realistically, I would say that we're probably safe saying like November, December timeframe. So we have some time. I'll get into a video later on what your guild should do, what are, what are the pros and cons of this. Should you push further? It'll have some numbers in there. I've already kind of done some real rough beer math on it. And so I've kind of been thinking about that, because I know that's going to be a question that most people ask. Okay, and then they give a little bit of insight on the new Ewok. She's going to be an Ewok. Princess Nisa is going to raise the Ewok's power level and lift their meta rankings. Now, what does that mean? Who knows, right? Tuskens, they're pretty usable. They're actually quite good, especially now with our Datacron. I would expect at some point we're going to get an Ewok Datacron, and it's going to be really good, and it's going to encourage people to invest in them. But for right now, I mean, if Ewoks even raise up to like a C+ tier team, then they'd be increasing their ranking in the meta. So it's hard to say like exactly what that entails. The biggest thing with them is they're so hard to determine because their damage amplifiers are so bad. They still do 0 damage. So they kind of are relying on a turn meter mechanic, but relics have just made it to where even with turn meter, they're still just not doing enough damage to actually end up killing anyone. So anyways, then the next part is we're getting a new original character. When I first saw this, I really thought like, okay, we're getting an original character from the movies. It's just weird that they announced this, but no, we're getting an original character, meaning that it's basically made up for the Galaxy of Heroes. So it's going to be this Captain Drogon. He's a rebel captain who fought with the rebellion. He's going to be a key part of the GL Leia squad. And, since birth, he's had not just a limb difference, but he's also had a sense of justice and passion to help those in need. So basically he's gonna be, part of this GL Leia squad. The only reason why I'm so confused by this is why not just put like an Endor commando or, whatever they can do. They've had, Endor characters for a long time. Like, why not just, use that person. I don't know. Maybe they're trying to increase the hype for him or whatever the case is, so that way he's not just some kind of random character. But for right now, for all intents and purposes, he really is a random character. Anyways, guys, that's kind of the road ahead. We also got a Maliko's kit reveal, who's going to be the new Conquest character beyond this. There's just a ton of information. I would expect tomorrow we're going to get an update. It's going to put some, I would assume one marquee into the game. I would assume there's going to be, an actual update that's pushed through it as well. So let me know what you guys thought about the actual road ahead. Like I said, I'll be coming out with videos hopefully throughout the next week or so, kind of detailing some more things that I've found, whether that's Leviathan kit, or like I said, should we start planning for the Endor raid, or should we keep going with crate? All these things are going to be kind of topics of discussion over the next week or so, as we kind of get more details and kind of wrap our head around this. Anyways, guys, like I said, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next one.